it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we've got quite a few bits and pieces to talk about. We're going to be talking about our thoughts on the new Onward and also Jungle Cruise trailers. We'll be talking about High School Musical being available early. We're going to be talking about the Disney channels closing in a number of different regions, fairy tale weddings, and a whole load more. But before we go any further, make sure you do go check us out over at What's on Disney Plus and subscribe on the audio or video platforms. Also, a big thank you to our patrons at the diamond level, Diane and also Julie. So big thank you there. You can go find out more about how you can support us over at patreon.com/What's on Disney Plus. So, James, before we get into the news, what have you been watching this past week?
Well, it's been the week of television shows coming back on the air, new seasons here in the States. So not Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because that's not back yet. So I've been watching, I guess, the DC superhero shows, which have been back over here. Won't talk about those because that's a different podcast. However, one Disney show did come back this week, and that was Star Wars Resistance, Season 2.
Oh, yeah.
So I watched the first episode of that. And I will say, last week you got to hear me complain about Ad Astra and its lack of understanding of physics. And I'll skip it this week because it's Star Wars. We already know it doesn't have any understanding of physics. We just kind of accept that. But it doesn't pretend to, like another movie, which I already named, so it won't name again. Either way, perfectly decent first episode. Not particularly special. Still doesn't quite have that hook that Rebels or Clone Wars had. But I think it is off to a better start than Season 1. I mean, but granted, it's starting, with a story already in motion. We had the cliffhanger-ish ending to Season 1, so now we're building on that rather than starting scratch. It's enjoyable. I will probably enjoy Season 2, especially since it looks like it's going to tie in a bit more with, what's going on in the movies, but I'm ready for The Mandalorian and other shows.
It's funny because the thing is with Resistance is this is the second season is it. That's the end of it.
That is it.
I have downloaded it. I'm gonna start watching soon. I've been kind of doing quite a bit of Star Wars. I watched Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and then I went straight into A New Hope, and then I've also done Empire Strikes Back. So I've done 3 Star Wars movies this week. So that was definitely a good thing going forward. Was watching 3 of them. I just want to try and get through as much like classic content on the Netherlands trial at the moment, just to kind of, because I know once November hits, I just want to be watching all the originals. So I kind of was thinking I want to get rid of them before Rise of the Skywalker. So Resistance is on there. Also this week, we rented Dark Phoenix yesterday. It came up on it was our day off, so we sat there on the couch and watched the movie. And Dark Phoenix, and I watched it. It was a bit like when I was explaining to my wife about the fact of, well, this is it. This is the end of like the X-Men as we know it. Before they did, my wife, they're rebooting it again. It's like, yeah, and they'll all be in with, and I said, we'll all be in with Iron Man and Spider-Man and stuff. And then like, the face, it was like, wasn't impressed. This movie was a bit like, okay. I do think the Dark Phoenix it was really weird. Like, I didn't get the aliens. I don't know. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. I actually almost watched it this week because I saw it at Redbox, the DVD rental place.
It's worth renting. It's worth renting.
Yeah. I think it is. I just didn't really have the time for it this week. This was I knew all the shows were coming out this week, so I'm like, I'll just dedicate time. But it's on the list of things to do. I don't have particularly high hopes for it, but one minor thought that popped up. You're talking about, or your wife was talking about being a reboot. It's like, I know First Class was kind of billed as a reboot, but then they backed off on it and tried to tie it all together. I'm like, that probably wasn't the best idea. I did like First Class, and I did like Days of Future Past, which was the follow-up to it. But they just convoluted the timeline, which, to be fair...
There were some timeline issues with this movie, which was like, there was a major incident that happened. I'm like, what about all the other previous movies? So I'm going to be glad when they reboot. It was nice to sort of see it come to an end. There were some good scenes in it. There was some good... I'm glad I've seen it. But it was definitely, it went out on a whimper. it was not a highlight. We watched a few other movies and stuff that were on Netflix and a few bits and pieces. Also, some other shows I watched was I started watching The Great Migrations from National Geographic on Disney Plus. Also, I watched the very first episode last night of Disney Fairy Tale Weddings. I did actually watch the first episode of that one because might as well cover that one now. Was basically they announced this week that they are going to be moving Disney Fairy Tale Weddings from Freeform over to Disney Plus. They're all going to be available when it launches on November the 12th. They're currently filming a new season right now, and that will be exclusive to Disney Plus. I'm going to be honest, I thought that's a perfect move. That makes complete synergy move. I mean, they did kind of still drop in there coming from Freeform Studios, and you go, man, you can really tell there's still this kind of like this is my bit of land, this is mine, and this is mine. There's the kind of this is still my studio, and you're still. And it was like, well, why did you need to mention it was a Freeform Studios production? There's almost that kind of thing of like, yeah, we had it taken off of us, and we still made it. But no, I watched the first episode. It's very fluffy, very nice, very it's just as you'd expect from a Disney fairy tale wedding. What they aren't telling you, it's taking place probably at about 2:00 in the morning in order to have that much empty space. It's like, well, if they must be doing if they're filming this here, they must be kicking everybody at the park at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So this wedding is probably happening at 1:00 in the morning to have that completely perfect scene. But it looks beautiful, and yeah, I'm going to carry on with the season. I would say definitely I'm going to see if I can get my wife into watching this series.
I mean, I don't know. It's not a series for me, but I'm glad that they've got it. It makes sense to put it back on, or not back onto, put it onto Disney Plus. The kind of people who are going to want to watch it are the people who are going to be subscribed to Disney Plus. So it's just yet another show to say, hey, you want the content? It's right here, and you can also watch all this other stuff as well. I've got very little opinion on it. I will say my only connection to the show, which is minimal at best, is that my sister got engaged at Disney. She didn't get married there. She's not the Disney nut like I am, but she did get engaged at Disney in front of the castle with the fire. Right, the fireworks show had just finished, and my brother-in-law got down on his knees and proposed to her. Right? So cool. The other thing, you're like, oh, the parks close at 10 or 11. Yeah, sometimes they don't clear out until like 1. Yeah. So it might be really early when they shoot these shows.
Maybe, or the other way, like 4:00 in the morning. I don't know, but it's definitely going to be. They're going to be late, and they're not really they don't really mention that part of it, but that's like the logistics. But it looks beautiful. I mean, the way they do up the parts. I mean, they did the first. So I'm really glad that. But I also think that Freeform is benefiting because they're pulling in some content from like FX, like Family Guy and The Simpsons and stuff. So in some ways, Freeform is getting a sort of a boost of other content while it's losing some. But also I was looking at some of the ratings this past week, and Freeform is one of the highest rated TV series or shows that channels that Disney actually have. So that was still pulling in a lot of people, kind of hitting the right audience. So I think that was definitely a good move for Disney. Okay, so let's jump now into some other news. Since we are talking about Disney channels, so this was kind of quite an interesting story. There was a couple of things. First off, that Disney in Australia, they are going to be closing down the Disney Movie channel on November the 7th over there, and they're going to be replacing that with a channel called Fox Movies Kids, because basically there's no Disney content on it. They also announced that the Disney Channel and the Disney Junior channels would be continuing to at least February. They've kind of extended there, but essentially you're starting to see all the content being removed from Australia's networks, and also they're removing them from this month from Stan, which is another streaming network that's going on in Australia. While over in New Zealand, they're also they are going to be closing down the Disney Channel and Disney Junior channels on Sky on November the 30th. And they'll still have some of the movies available on the Sky Movies channels and box office running into 2020. But this kind of carries on because right through Europe and through other countries as well, they've not been closing every Disney channel, but they've been closing lots of them off. They've been closing channels off in Italy, Australia, Switzerland, and Germany. Some of them that's not necessarily the Disney channel. Some of them are just like offshoots and like movie channels and stuff. But there's been a general sort of sweep across there, and I'm expecting a lot more of this once all this like the Sky contracts in Europe start running up, because Disney are definitely in a different zone now of how they're looking at these channels. And like I said, they aren't getting rid of every channel. I want to make that clear. They're not clearing out every channel, but we are seeing them reducing the amount of channels that they're offering.
Yeah, and then I would expect this will happen in America too at some point. And not just with Disney. A lot of the major networks are going to start consolidating, because this is the kind of the natural evolution or the natural end to what the expansion of television networks leading through the late 90s, early 2010s. Let's kind of go with that number. It's still happening. There's still ones expanding, but HBO, HBO2, HBO HD, HBO Action, and Family, and all this stuff. All these networks do this kind of thing. But as the demographics are changing, as the younger generations in particular, which would hit Disney harder than say HBO, are going more to streaming content, there's no need for them to maintain 6 different channels, some of which are Disney and some of which are a different brand, because they need the one Disney channel, the one that's got their name on it, the one that you can say, this is where, if you want to watch, the wholesome Disney family content, it's right here. But we don't need Disney XD. We don't need Freeform. We don't need these other ones, because their content is over here on our app, which is what your kids are using. This is what kids are watching stuff on, because it's expensive to maintain a channel. It's not, just like, oh, well, let's just spin up a new channel. It's not like, a serverless kind of architecture kind of deal. No, there's money, contracts, agreements with content contributors like Comcast, Sky, all these companies. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. And if it didn't happen now, it would happen later. It just kind of makes sense, particularly for smaller markets. And I realize Australia is not exactly a small market, but
people-wise, it's yeah.
People-wise, it's not that much smaller market. But the number of people who watch traditional television versus streaming in Australia, I think, is fairly skewed towards streaming. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so do not quote me on that. But I seem to remember that being the case. So it makes sense that Australia, they'd be like, why would we have these channels? Our viewership numbers don't support them.
Yeah, I also think there's a big thing going forward of them like rejigging around. I think the big thing is had Disney been able to outbid Comcast for the Sky network when they were going through the whole purchase, Sky got outbid by Comcast, so they managed to get full control over it. And I think that is the big issue going forward with like what's going on with Sky and Foxtel, because all part of the repercussions of leaving 21st Century Fox. It's all like, well, yeah, we were on with Sky, but that's because that was owned. There was. And Disney are just removing everything around a bit. If they want to get Hulu and all the rest of it running, they're going to want to get out of these long-term contracts. And unfortunately, things are going to change. Here in the UK, I was flicking through last night of Now TV and going, so much of this stuff is on Hulu in the US that it's why they're changing the branding and why they're not pushing the ABC shows very much at all, because they know that stuff's going, so they're pushing their own content. It just makes sense. I think definitely it feels like Disney XD is kind of got a massive target on it. They've been closing down channels of that brand across the world, and also even the way that Disney are saying stuff, it's constantly Disney Channel and Disney Junior, Disney Channel, Disney Junior. They're not. Disney XD seems to be as a brand, they're pulling back from that. It's a bit, I'm thinking of it as XD. That's a bit like 90s kind of, that doesn't exist. And you can see Disney are pulling away. There's no Disney XD originals. There's no Disney XD. Most of the content there is being spread around all over the channel. You've seen that a lot with what they're announcing. Everything is like Disney Channel, Disney Junior, Disney Now. And still very strange that Disney Channel never mentioned Disney Plus in any of their press releases. It's like never saying it will be coming later or it will be available on there. They're still very much in the line of there's no. So going to be interesting where they go with all this. But we could also see a big shift also internationally with shows maybe appearing on Disney Plus internationally before where they would go to television, they might go to Disney Plus, because what people don't realize is that Disney channels in every other country are actually they were run by different divisions. Now they've all been amalgamated together into the same company that is part of Disney Plus. So like Disney Channel, like this weekend, we're getting Descendants 3 as their big premiere. That was months ago in the US. The Disney channels don't necessarily run the same speed that the US one does. They would like treat it as a separate like thing completely. So you might start seeing a bit more continuity going forward. But definitely interesting to see them kind of closing stuff down. We've been seeing this a lot with like different apps, different websites, different channels. They are just rejigging everything around before all their streaming services launch.
Right. And as you're talking there, you reminded me of something else too. A lot of these secondary channels, they don't, even before this, they didn't really have a whole lot of original content. A lot of those channels exist solely or mostly for syndicating content. So you would watch, let's say, the new season of DuckTales on the Disney Channel, season 2, episode 5 or whatever. You miss it. For some reason, you didn't DVR it. It will show again later on one of the other channels. But there's less of a need for that, because now if you miss that episode that you wanted to see, you can watch it on demand probably. It'll pop up on Netflix or Disney Plus at some point. You've got options to see it now, which kind of nullifies the need for these second channels where the content would exist for people who missed it the first time around.
Even on the official Disney Plus FAQ page, it just say that Disney Plus is like the home for all library content from Disney Channel. That's pretty much straight in the official thing of how they are viewing it. But interesting to see what they're doing with all of this going forward. But it does seem to be moving around. Speaking of Disney Plus, the trial has been running in the Netherlands, and apparently 8% of households are subscribed to it, which works out about 650,000 people. A little bit lower than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a bit higher than that since it was free. But apparently they're not advertising it at all. It's very much been like word of mouth. But generally at the minute, it seems to be, they seem to be going down very well. They're expecting numbers to go up, especially once they start advertising it. But 8% of the people, so that, that's not bad really for a trial. It's definitely giving them some data of watching. Speaking of the Netherlands trial, next week is going to be like the first big week of new content to drop. They've already announced that Captain Marvel will be available in the Netherlands on the 15th. Brave will also be available. They've been adding some other content, but it's not been quite showing up. Things like Oklahoma, one of the Fox movies, that one's been shown up. Wizards of Waverly Place. I think there's going to be a bit of an update next week, and I think that's definitely a good thing because they've not really added much. Maybe the odd show or here and there since it launched about a month ago in the Netherlands. So it'll be interesting to see how all it stands up to people actually watching some of it. So that's going to be interesting to see where they go with that one.
Yeah, I'm still sitting over here not connecting through a VPN, so I'm watching. That
easy, I can assure you.
I'm willing to wait for the official launch. It's not that, but it's cool. They're getting content added on there. I think that's very good to test out the new content distribution network, see how it impacts the front page, see how it impacts the various categories. How will they advertise these new shows? Will it bump other things off the front page? Probably not, the most interesting things for most people to be thinking about. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, these are important UI decisions, user interface decisions. And it's kind of like not necessarily the best discussion material, but at the same time, it does tell us how seriously they're taking the app. Because if they just kind of put, well, here's Captain Marvel, and then you never see it on the front page, or by putting Captain Marvel on the front page, you now have knocked off, Infinity War or something like that. That's also important because you want your most important content, the content that people want to watch, right there in your face when you first sign on.
They have been updating the front. They've been keep changing the ones on the carousel at the top, sort of showing that off. But for me, it's more about, it'd be interesting to see what happens when you maybe have a large proportion of the people subscribed watching the same file the same video at different times and all the rest of it, because up to now everyone's probably been scattered around all over the place and they've not really had that one thing to kind of focus on, and I think that is going to help. So that's definitely a good thing. I still think the one thing they're going to need when they do this is a recently added or a new release area to show you what's going on, rather than at the minute, if you want to see if there's anything new, you've got to scroll right the way through the list, and that's just painful when you can just, I think once they start adding you can see with the mainstream ones going on, they'll have them on the front banner, but I do think for like library content, they need to have that just added, but hopefully they, like we said before, they can't do that. They couldn't do that at launch because everything's new, so it doesn't really work. But nevertheless, now moving away from the Netherlands trial, and a couple of other quick bits and pieces. First off, also High School Musical, the series, is going to be having its very first episode airing on Disney Channel, Freeform, and ABC on Friday, November the 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be showing off the very first episode a few days early. It's kind of like an enticement to get people to maybe join in, build up some hype. That week, I think we're going to see a lot of this. We've got that new ABC Little Mermaid show. Now we've got the High School Musical. They're building up that week before as a kind of the one big push to get people subscribed. I don't think this is a bad idea at all. I think just to get that first episode out there be interesting for us as well, because we're going to be able to watch that hopefully before then Disney Plus launches, so it reduces what we need to watch. I know we were both highly anticipating of that episode.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I probably have, but I've never seen a High School Musical movie. None of them at all. So I get the basic idea. It's pretty straightforward. But so I'm going into this completely blind. But yeah, it'll give us something to talk about in a couple of weeks. But the thing is, more seriously, it might not be something that I'm super excited for. You might not be super excited for, but there are people who are very, very excited for it. And I think that they're the people that you really do want to get the message to. Hey, we've got this new series. It's on Disney Plus. It's over here. Let them know about it. It's just one more cog in the advertising machine. I probably would have picked another show alongside it. Keep the show in the rotation because it speaks to a very specific audience. We're not part of the audience, but it is still a big audience and it's still important to get the message. I probably would have picked another show as well to put alongside it. The obvious choice is, of course, The Mandalorian, but I would not do that because that's going to be their that's the big hook show. This is the one where but they've got plenty of other shows coming out either in the first couple of weeks or right on launch day that they could have picked, and maybe they will. I mean, there's still a month for announcements and all that stuff. So, yeah,
I wouldn't be at all surprised if they end up doing something like this for the Jeff Goldblum show as well. For National
that would be a good choice. That'd be a good one.
That would be a good hook to get the National Geographic, because there's still loads of people that don't know that that's now part of Disney, and that's a whole different. They've got to reach a whole and putting it on the channel. There's the same thing with ABC and Disney Channel. It's about advertising it within their own infrastructure, kind of getting people to sign up for it. And I think it's a good move. I actually don't think High School Musical was a bad choice. I think it would do a lot better than Encore. I think it would have a much better reach than Encore. Like I said, The Mandalorian is that hook to get you in to watch that. They don't need that. But I think High School Musical was a good choice to kind of get people in. And the saying it's like, you're only getting the first episode. We're giving you that one free. It's the pilot, we'll get you in. And maybe as well as that thing of people go, oh, well, it's actually a proper show. They must have faith in it to do that. Because if they didn't think it was good enough, they wouldn't have put that out there as a flagship presentation to get people in to subscribe.
That's true. And actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of liking the Jeff Goldblum idea as the second one, because it's not what you would traditionally think of as a Disney show, not even ignoring the whole National Geographic thing and getting that part of the information out there. When you think of Disney, you think of the princesses and the animated movies, maybe some of the live action movies, or maybe High School the Musical. Yeah. But Jeff Goldblum going off and being Jeff Goldblum in strange places and experiencing strange things is not what you think of as Disney. And that could be one of those shows where you're just like, wow, they really are going out there with some of these shows. It's not just going to be the place where the live action renditions of the old animated movies go and such like that. So,
well, also as well, apparently the show was not built for Disney Plus. It was just a show that they were making. and they're now looking at things. And National Geographic is going through a massive shake-up and a massive twist because it's part of the Disney company, and they're having big shifts, lots of talks, lots of things moving around because I think it's one part of Fox that has been literally along the lines of Disney have gone, yep, you fit perfectly. You're going in here and you're going to become part of the cog, whereas Fox is kind of being left all over the place. National Geographic has been picked up and dropped well into the Disney brand thing, and they're going through some massive changes, and they've been talking about, they're looking at it from the exciting point of view that not only are things changing, but a lot more people are going to start seeing National Geographic. And I've always said, for me, as an adult viewer of Disney Plus, National Geographic is going to be one of my key. I've been watching quite a few documentaries and stuff that are on there. And for me, it's that adult-orientated content. Yeah, it just really does stand out as being, I don't want to, I like watching cartoons. I've been watching, I enjoy watching them, but I don't want to watch them all the time. I would like to have something serious, like watching, like I said, Greatest Migrations and about the Serengeti and things like this. Some of them are old shows that I've not seen because National Geographic wasn't on Now TV, and so therefore I've missed them. But for me, they are so well produced, and I love animal documentaries and things like this. And for me, I think the National Geographic side is going to be one of those core elements that you're going to, I will be talking about a lot. And when we talk about what we've been watching, I will be talking a lot more about National Geographic because it just appeals to me so much more.
Yeah, I don't know if people saw this because you were talking about it. I've got right here, I rented this from the library actually this week. I haven't watched it yet, otherwise I would have mentioned it. But they've got all these shows, these documentaries that they produce. And because it's National Geographic's prior to this point, they don't really hype it up that much. Like if you have the magazine, I'm sure, you get the advertisements in the magazine, you might get emails.
Not very often, no.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. So you don't hear about it when they release stuff, but they've been steadily releasing documentaries for years and years and years and years. And it covers all things. I've got dinosaurs here, but they've got space, they've got underwater, they've got ancient civilizations, they've got modern civilizations, they've got hypothetical future civilizations, they've got biology and engineering and everything. There will be something in the National Geographic section that entertains you. I probably won't watch it like the first week because the first week will be when we're watching all the new shows and talking about stuff like that. But immediately after that, once we get through the bulk of that first wave of content, you can bet I will be looking in the National Geographic section, just being like, what can I watch? Whole bunch of stuff. I'll check these out.
But also there's quite a few like shows like the Dr. Poe and Yukon Vet and all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try and introduce when it kind of officially launches in the UK and when we can watch it properly is, they'll be like trying to sort of see if my wife likes them as well and see if we can, those kind of shows where, we like watching the BBC documentaries and travel documentaries and things like this. So we will probably much more likely watch those stuff together. And that's kind of the interesting thing from the National Geographic point of view.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition to Disney Plus. We've been saying that ever since it was first announced, obviously, but it's not the big in-your-face announcements. It's not The Mandalorian. It's not High School Musical. It's not Lady and the Tramp or any of these things, but it will be consistently good content that you can rely on to make an hour or two of interesting educational content. And interesting educational are two words that don't often go together, and yet National Geographic manages to consistently pull it off. So
yeah, and I suspect we'll see a lot of legacy content being drip fed onto there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Forever.
Which not to go too far off topic on this, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with some of those old legacy contents, like shark documentaries from the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that, because we know so much more about sharks now than we knew then, and a lot of what was factual back then isn't actually fact at all. They're completely wrong. And it'll be curious if they just present them as is, or if they'll have like things at the front of them saying the information presented in this has been shown to be incorrect, but we are presenting it as it was presented when we created it.
I think as long as you've got the year on it, and you can tell instantly of like when it was made.
Yeah, you might be overestimating people's willingness to think critically here.
Yeah, I know.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yes.
Anyway, back on.
I am aware of the comments section.
I hear about the comment section.
Yes, never go in there, as I said, Wreck-It Ralph. Right, so other things. Apparently, there is going to be a new quiz show coming to Disney Plus called The Disney Files. There was a casting call put out, and they're looking for for people just to take part in a new Disney quiz coming to Disney Plus. Very little is known about it. But the Disney Files, that might not be the main name. They might change it. It's quite interesting as well, because apparently the Disney Files are a magazine that Disney Vacation Club owners get every quarter or something. So whether or not that changes, I don't know. But a quiz show on Disney Plus, I think that sounds like a nice fit.
Yeah, when I first heard about this, I was kind of like, quiz show, yeah. But then I remember, when I was growing up, I used to watch Nickelodeon a lot, and they had shows like Double Dare, which was a quiz show, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, Guts, which isn't a quiz show. That was an athletic show. But still, they had a lot of kids-oriented game shows, or Legend of the Hidden Temple, another athletic one. And yeah, I think that there's a market for this. There is a good spot for a good laid-back Disney quiz show. We're not talking Jeopardy. We're not talking, something super mindful, but still should be fun.
Yeah, it's funny because you went in a very different direction. You went much more of as a kids quiz show.
Mm-hmm.
I was there thinking like here in the UK, we have things like Pointless and Chase. Mm-hmm. They're on every single night. And it's that kind of thing. And they always constantly come up with these Disney questions. And you're always there and I was thinking actually from an adult's point of view, some of them, they could go quite deep and start really if they start just doing the whole thing of questions but if they start going deep and getting adults on there and stuff, it could be quite fun that way of going. So they could kind of swing on two different sides really, whether or not they go as a kids one, or if they go or adult family friendly, or that kind of thing of who starred as this character in this movie is going to be a bit more deeper cut than maybe a kid might know.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see because we don't have information. We have no idea what the level of content is. Honestly, I'd be fine with either. I probably wouldn't necessarily watch it if it's kid focused, simply because I'm not the audience for that. If they did do a Jeopardy Wheel of Fortune kind of route, I'd probably watch that just to kind of see where they go with it and see how I stack up. Yeah. And it really depends. If they talk about modern stuff, going back to say 1990, give or take, which probably isn't most people's definition of modern anymore, but still we'll go with that. I might do okay. And I do pretty well because I've seen most of the big name movies since then. If we start digging deeper, especially if you go live action pre-1990, I'm out in the weeds. I'm totally gone.
And everyone's, but I think it could be fun. Depends where they go. But that one could be a couple of years away yet. They're only just starting casting now.
Quiz shows, given their complexity, quote unquote complexity, they could film it tomorrow and have it online in 3 days.
That's the thing with quiz shows is they're very good at being bulk made. You can film multiple episodes a day. And you can churn out basically probably a season in 2-3 weeks. It doesn't take much. You see that a lot with quiz shows, and that's why they're on daily, because they can just keep churning them out so easily.
I think that the two I mentioned here, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, they produce 2 weeks of content in a single day, I think is what I read. That might not be accurate, but that's I totally believe it either way. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, moving on. Also, we've got the brand new animated series called The Rocketeer coming to the Disney Channel on November the 8th. This is a brand new one aimed at children between 2 and 7 and their families. I like to put that one in there because I know a lot of people are like, no, this isn't. It's a real proper Disney Junior kids show about the Rocketeer. They've redone it. We've got a young girl being the Rocketeer. The trailer looks fun. So expect to see this one on Disney Plus at some point later on. Also, we've had it confirmed via a press release from a Canadian company that 101 Dalmatian Street and Legend of the Free I'm trying to say this.
Caballeros.
People were commenting on my video this morning. It's sorry, I don't speak Spanish. So it's hard to explain as well. But in America, you have much more Latino culture than we do here in the UK. So we don't. So that's we don't. But have
Spain is right there. I don't.
Yeah, but it's somewhere else. We don't talk. But so we got those shows are all going to be coming to Disney Plus at launch. It looks like all the free Caballeros are going to be available on launch. The 101 Dalmatian Street didn't say that in the thing, so they might be stripped out. But it was just interesting to see that they've kind of come through like a third party's press release with all the other shows they're making for like Netflix and Nickelodeon and all the rest of it. But I was like, okay, that's actually in a press release, so you've got to be saying it. But it does feel like Disney are being very cautious of, and I think that might be why Disney Channel isn't doing this. They don't seem to be wanting to mention like they're putting cartoons onto Disney Channel. It's like they're doing their absolute best to kind of distance themselves from like being too Disney Channel focused. That's how it feels anyway.
I don't know, but I'd have to assume that they're very much courting the adult audiences, because they know the kids will come along with the adult audiences. They know who has the buying power in the house, and more often than not, it's the parents. More often than not, being like 99.99% of the time. They will at some point be ramping up the kids' awareness of it, because they also realize that kids sitting there go, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, I want the Disney Plus app," has a lot of power too. But yeah, for the moment, before it's out, before all the the content is known, adults, they want us to buy it, and then the kids get the fringe benefits. And at some point that might even like fully flip, where it's the kids going, I missed an episode of DuckTales. Obviously the kid's not going to be this articulate about it, but I missed an episode of DuckTales. Get the Disney Plus app so I can see the episode I missed.
It's just that kind of thing of like, I put out a trailer, I just put out something on the Disney Channel thing going, these are coming. It's just, see, they might do that much more closer to launch. Maybe they're feeling like kids have got shorter attention spans and they need to do it when it launches or when it's out and start pushing it that way. That might
be fair. Yes.
Yes. That's probably what it is. But yeah, so it's good to see that those have been confirmed. I know a lot of people are looking forward to the Donald Duck show. 101 Dalmatian Street is already been airing in countries like the UK and stuff already. So that one's been kind of coming up as it goes along. Also, Disney Channel has optioned a brand new movie, turning a book into a movie called Dear Sweet Pea. That's going to be turned into a Disney Channel movie. So that was interesting to see them going forward on that one there. They've also ordered a second season of Gabby Duran and the Unsittables, which is a brand new series coming to Disney Channel as well this month. So they're definitely pushing forward on all of this. And sticking here, I think that's kind of the main bits of news that's come out before we get into like the trailer talk. Really, I'm just going to check my list, make sure I didn't forget anything, because this is, like I said, there's been a lot of bits and pieces this week.
The list you gave me doesn't have anything else except to specify 1 month to go.
Yes, that was definitely going to be almost like its own separate little thing that we'll talk about now, because we're literally, it's now as of recording October the 12th. So that means we are 1 month to go till Disney Plus. So I thought it was a good time just to kind of go over some of the basics. I mean, if you're already this deep into the podcast, you're probably already aware of some of the bits and pieces, but some people aren't. I mean, I know on our Facebook group, we are getting inundated with people asking what a lot of people consider to be basic questions. And I am reminding people going, they might have only just found out about this, because there was a great question that came up the other day of going, when did you find out about Disney Plus? And the question and the answers are all over the place. There was a few snarky comments, as you would expect. But there's a lot of what was surprising me of like, I heard about it at D23. I heard about it on television. I heard about it when they announced it on social media. All these different things of like going, okay, yeah, I heard about this through an investors conference call in 2017. For everyone had a different jumping on point. Some people are seeing this trailer for the first time on Facebook because a friend tags them, or maybe they're seeing the advert on on ABC during the through the Emmys and stuff. People are coming into this at all different points. But we are now a month away. Excitement is obviously continuing to build, and there's a lot of things going in there. Just want to go over a few quick facts. Obviously, it's $6.99 a month is your basic subscription package if you don't want a long-term deal. So
US.
In US. There is other variations. It's going to be launching in the US and Canada and the Netherlands on November the 12th, followed shortly thereafter, a week later, in New Zealand and Australia. As far as other countries are concerned, they have laid out a roadmap. It's going to be taking about 2 to 3 years for them to do the entire global rollout. Western Europe is going to be early 2020. Latin America will be late 2020. And I think Asia as well is just all over. The bar was all over the place. No mention of Africa, but they've hired new people to kind of deal with it. So it's going to be taking a little bit of time to roll out everywhere. They are focusing just on what they're doing right now. I don't think we're going to see any announcements regarding dates for Europe until it's launched, because ultimately they don't want to be confusing Americans any more than they already are. The more dates and countries they put out there, the harder it is for the general public they need to keep it simple. They've already confused things with the Netherlands and Australia. There's already, someone in Australia will ask and I will give them the date, and then 25 people will then jump in and tell me it's the wrong date. It's like, no, the question was Australia. It's very much along the lines of they need to keep this simple and they need to keep that one date. People are already on, I can't get the app. No, it's not out yet. But it doesn't take much to confuse people, and therefore I can't see them doing any more date announcements till it's actually out in the US.
That, and they need to make sure that the launch goes smoothly in the US. That will determine how quickly they feel they're prepared to roll out to other countries. Because if it goes poorly, they're going to want to fix the problems before they start adding more users on. If it goes well, then they'll probably feel confident to bump those days up to a closer time period. And if they announce something, it's going to launch on December 20 something in X country. Yeah. And then the rollout in the States and Canada and all that goes very poorly. And they're like, February. We meant February. It goes much worse that way than if they just straight up wait for the launch and then go February or whatever it ends up being.
I still think they should have been a little bit more vocal about international. The way that social media and stuff works now is, when Disney put out an advert on their YouTube channel, it goes to everybody, not just to one country anymore. And I don't think sometimes they quite grasp that that's what happens. And it's like, you can't just, like it's on at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's like, yeah, the rest of the world is watching, so they have to be. And that's why movie release dates have all become a lot more singular because of this. So that's definitely one thing going forward to be aware of. Like I said, there is an annual subscription which you can get for $69.99. It's all included plus tax. That will give you. It saves you about $12 if you do that one. If you're planning on getting a year, there are some other options around. Turn the plug on my laptop so the battery was going to die. So there is that annual package is available. There are some other packages and offers, but they're all starting to expire around now, so they might be disappearing. There was an offer this week, so if you wanted that free deal, whether or not they do another one, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's another long-term open deal announced just in the next couple of weeks to get people signed in. The Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus bundle doesn't become available until November the 12th. As far as other bundles go, they are keeping it very simple. That's the bundle they're offering. They're not offering like Hulu Plus to get with the non-advert version yet. So don't worry too much about that. They're just focusing on those two main things at the minute. Obviously as well, it's a month away. So as far as downloading it and all of that lot, it will probably not appear in app stores till this very same day. Because again, app stores are very good. Google and Apple are very good at getting out their apps. It's not them that's the problem. It's going to be the service from Disney. So the apps will be rolling out. I know everyone's like, well, they should get it out early. It's like, no, the app isn't really the major problem. They won't want it out too early, because then if you can't log in, that's going to cause even more problems. So they want it to be available when it's available.
Right, and it's not like preloading a video game or downloading a movie. All you are downloading is the app. The app will not be that big, more than likely.
I was just going to check, actually.
Yeah, let's see how big it is in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But you don't need it a day early. It's not like video game launches now, where if you buy it digitally, you want it to be able to preload because you're looking at 70, 80, 90 gigs of data. No, it's probably, I'm guessing, less than 100 megs. So
yeah, it's not that takes up the space. It's all your files, because I mean I downloaded a ton of movies because I'm finding that with my phone they seem to work better when I download them. It might just be because when I connect them up to my television, I think it might just be my iPhone of just being it when it's, and I've been having some issues with the internet at home, so I've just been finding that's been a much better way of me experiencing it because the option's there. I think once it's running properly and you can run it, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But yeah, because I've even noticed, for example, that a difference between downloading them I can stream them perfectly on my iPad, but my iPhone, the connector is a bit different.
Right. And that's an issue that Disney is going to have to deal with, but probably has very little control of, because network latency, it's outside their purview. It's between you and your provider, you and your router, you and all sorts of things. I've noticed very similar using some other apps, the DC Universe app, which is their comics/television streaming app. I've noticed if I watch it on my computer, the sound will get out of sync with the visuals. So the sound will come out a couple of seconds after their mouth moves, and it's very disconcerting. But I don't have that on the television. So if I watch, and this is both streaming, this is not downloading and then playing. If I stream it on the television, it's fine. Probably because it's a more powerful system. Obviously, it's not the television; it's the Xbox connected to the television that's doing that. But either way, that's something that they have to deal with. Disney will have to deal with the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing of really of the different devices. And this is, again, the problem of legacy devices, of what, like, content of, people asking, like, is it going to be on this and going to be, when it's a 5-10-year-old device, it's not powerful enough to run the software. There's not a huge amount of software on it, but they struggle. I mean, I know, like, my smart TV is like 3-4 years old, and it's really struggling at the minute to run a lot of the apps, and they're crashing more often because they keep updating them to make them, and it's this kind of thing of, whereas I fire up my PlayStation 4 and it's smooth as butter, and it is that kind of thing of, the PlayStation is so much more powerful to handle it, and it's why, like, Roku and Amazon and Apple keep bringing out new devices, not just to sell them to us, but the apps are less powerful. You think of your mobile games, from like the first generation of iPhone compared to now, they wouldn't be at that first generation iPhone would not be able to handle the games that are coming out now. And
the first generation iPhone couldn't handle the web browser that the current iPhone has.
No, and that's the thing is, I think the trouble is we're dealing now with technical parts that people never had to worry about with television before, and people are having to keep up with it, and it is causing some issues with, like, what devices. It doesn't help with some of the major devices like Amazon and Nintendo Switch not being supported at launch. They've been very vague about what smart TVs are going to be rolling out on. I'm really hoping in the next few weeks, Disney kind of really get this information out a little bit clearer, announce some final deals. They've got to get this Amazon deal sorted because this is going to be a massive nightmare for them. And people are already like, it's not going to be working on my thing, and I want my money back. And it's like, they're gonna have this. It's not working on my PlayStation 3. I thought it would do. I've got Netflix, and people are saying this, and they're gonna have to deal with this. They need to put it on as many devices as possible, but they've also got to be realistic, and also people as well need to be understanding of, you might be using your device and you don't think anything more of it, but it's a 10-year-old device. How many other people are still using it? If the numbers are so low, it's not cost effective for them to actually develop an app for it or to fix it and all the rest of it. It's a thing going forward, and we've not really ever had to worry about that so much with, like, when you've had satellite and cable, they might I think of, like, how many times Sky have updated their machines in the last 25 years. Maybe like once every 4 years. You can still run satellite on an old box from 15 years ago. Yeah, you don't get all the modern features, but you can still watch the live television on an old 15, 20-year-old Skybox the same way. And they keep updating the software, but generally you don't have as many upgrades as these smart boxes have.
Yeah, I guarantee you there is someone or many people over in Sky who are cursing all of those people with those 15-year-old boxes that they need to keep supporting, but they don't want to. The Sky all the carriers
Yeah.
want you to be using something relatively modern. It makes things easier for them. It makes things easier for you. But especially older generations, and I'm actually including our generation in this one, we still have that mindset that when you buy something, it's to last.
Yeah.
Why should I replace my 3-year-old television? The television I grew up with at home was the same television from when I was like 5 to 20. We didn't upgrade we didn't have to.
No.
But now you do. You have to upgrade every couple of years if you want to stay up with technology, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, my granddad brought a big color television in the 60s for the World Cup, right? And he was the first person in the street to have that color television, right? He still had it when he died in late 90s. He had it for 30 odd years. They only ever had the one television. It was only really at one point it's like, yeah, Gran, we're gonna have to get you a new television. They don't have the sockets for the new, and it's like, but it still worked, and and it's hard to explain. I grew up in my bedroom until I was at least a teenager, where I had a black and white television with a thing, because it was my parents when they used to, like when they were 18, that it still worked. It still picked up television and stuff. And then, like we said, modern devices, they don't work like that because they want you to keep buying new ones.
It is a combination of both things. Obviously they want you to buy new ones because that's money in their pockets. But the technology is also moving that fast, where if you have something that's 3 or 4 years old, it does become impractical to continue supporting it. And some of it's built in, some of it's planned obsolescence. They can't admit that it is because that's kind of technically illegal, but it is. Planned obsolescence is definitely part of hardware manufacturers' plans. And it's just a different market. I was thinking about, you're talking about your old black and white television, and it's like, it seems inconceivable, and I suspect that people listening who are younger than me will not relate to that. And I'm like, heck, even when I was growing up, I had to play with bunny ears. I had to play with the antennas. It's fuzzy. It looks clearer, but I can get it a little bit clearer, and then it gets just really bad. That wasn't that long ago. It feels like it was because of how fast technology is moving, but it really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, now we just keep kicking the routers, going bloody work.
I don't kick it. I unplug it and plug it back in, and then six more times.
I was all right until the neighbor decided to redecorate the front of the house and cut my entire phone line. So we lost all the internet for like 4 days, and we had to watch live television last weekend because something so simple. Somebody cut the phone line. Bang.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's just that kind of thing of, there is that element of things have been moving. I mean, I've been finding with my smart TV, it's getting sluggish. It's taking so much longer to get through the app because they keep updating the app. And the television is, but there again, we're also sitting there going, this television, there is nothing wrong with it. It's a 4K HDR television. There is nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to upgrade it just because Netflix and stuff is starting to become sluggish. It's that thing of, again, why a lot of people, and we've seen this a lot in the group, of talking about going, you just keep upgrade. Don't worry about your smart TV. You just want to have a Roku box or something like that, and you use that because that is the thing that's the cheap thing to update. Don't worry about so much about it. And I'm like, this television, there is nothing wrong with it, and it's working perfectly. And it's working in 4K. It's not like it's, I'm still running in, standard definition. It's fine, but the apps are slowing down on it, and unfortunately, it's part of it all, and it's not. And I don't think it is good enough. I don't think it is right of what's going on, and they keep updating these apps to make them go fast. I mean, you look at your mobile phones, and it's that thing of like, this phone was super fast when I got it, and now everything's sluggish on it 2 years later because they've all been updating it to make it push. And it's just one of those really annoying things with apps. And I think we're going, Disney Plus will have this in like 3 to 4 years' time. We'll be going, you ran it on a PlayStation 4, you need the PlayStation 6.
I hope the PlayStation 6 is not 4 years down the road. We don't have a PlayStation 5 yet.
Holiday 2020.
Oh, Christ. 2 thoughts. One, we were talking about having to reset the routers a moment ago. I just realized I've actually had to hard reset my television twice. That would not have made any sense to me even like 5 years ago. I had to unplug it,
Mm-hmm.
let it go through the power cycle, and then plug it back in to get it to just display regular television out of the box. That wasn't even using an app. And like, I had to hard reset a television. That's boggles the mind. The second thing is I've got my work phone sitting over beside me. I'm not going to put it on the screen. It's an iPhone 6 or something like that. I haven't updated it in like a year and a half because I'm afraid that the modern iOS system is just going to make it impossible to use, just way too slow. And that's kind of what you're talking about.
My iPad updated last night, and I can't find anything on the new iPad. Everything's changed. All the sizes are different. I'm like, why did it die? I didn't. It's like I've been putting this thing off for ages, and it's finally like auto done it. And it's like, yeah, it's going to get sluggish, and it's going to use more power. I know they say it's not, but it will be. And there is that kind of thing of going, sometimes updating your laptops and all the rest of it isn't actually what you really want to do. But nevertheless, that's enough of old men talking about technology. Let's now move on to some trailer talk to finish things off. So we had 2 new trailers this week. We had, first off, let's talk with Onward, Pixar's new movie coming out in March. A lot different than it was. I'm going to say, stars Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. I said Chris Pine in yesterday's video. And everyone's pointing it out, and I didn't even notice it when I was editing it because it just so Chris Pratt is in it with Tom Holland. Very different than what I was expecting. What the story was, a half of their dad, and they've got 24 hours to save him. Was not where I was. It's kind of turned into Weekend at Bernie's. It wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's is actually a pretty good comparison. I like this trailer a lot better than the previous trailer that we saw. It gives the movie an identity, which the last one didn't. I think we were talking about the last one. It looked like Monsters, Inc., just with fairy tale creatures instead of monsters. This looks much different. This looks much better. I do want to mention Chris Pratt, actually, because, Tom Holland kind of blended in. His character blended in, and I knew it was Tom Holland because it said so, but otherwise I wouldn't have recognized it. Chris Pratt, I knew was Chris Pratt from his voice, from his mannerisms, from everything. It's just like, that is Chris Pratt. I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly. I really like him in Guardians. Haven't seen Park and Recs, but it is on my list of things to see. And I'm just like, I'm not sure I want Chris Pratt playing Chris Pratt in an animated movie because all I'm thinking about is him rather than the character. We'll see how it is in the actual movie. That's and for anyone wondering, that's tongue-tied. That's my only real complaint about the trailer is that his character doesn't seem to blend in. Otherwise, I actually really like this trailer.
Yeah, I thought it would be good. I also like the fact that it's original, it's different, new characters, new location. Enough of the sequels, and we need something fresh. We need some. We need some original stories rather than kind of thing. I thought it looked great. Just the whole look of it. They've definitely got that thing going for it. So March 2020 for the cinema. So I'm thinking if it follows suit of what we've seen, like with Dumbo and Captain Marvel, they're going to be coming to Disney Plus in November. So it wouldn't surprise me October, November for Disney Plus. It depends if they change things around a bit. So it'll be late. So it won't be too long for that one. And then Jungle Cruise, which really caught me by guard because I thought...
By what?
Off guard. Because
Off guard. I thought I heard by guard. I was like...
Off guard, yeah. I've been very hesitant on this one. And there's the thing with... Just the problem here is I have got one problem with the movie and one thing that I love about the movie. So one hand, The Rock's in it. That's me sold. I said that to my wife yesterday. It's got The Rock in it. I'm seeing it. That's it. But it's also got Mary Poppins goes to Brazil. And it's like, yeah, I really didn't like Emily Blunt in the trailer at all. It just felt like, hello, I'm Mary Poppins. No, it's just, the Rock and the bit that he did with the Jungle Cruise and making it feel like they were on the ride. I liked all of that, and it feels very much like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of esque. I'm really liking the look of it. It's full of action, loads of adventure. I'm completely sold on this movie. I'm in. I'm just going to get past Mary Poppins. That's all.
See, I haven't seen Mary Poppins Return, so Emily Blunt is not Mary Poppins to me, at least at this point. She's more Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise movie kind of thing, and this does seem more that. She does seem to be channeling Jack Sparrow, though, to a certain degree. A toned down Jack Sparrow. But that whole ladder sequence, I was just like, this is Pirates of the Caribbean right here. But yeah, this caught me by surprise too. I was like, the Jungle Cruise. This is The Rock in it.
Yeah.
We already knew he was in it, and that man just has charisma to spare. I would not have pictured myself saying that a number of years ago, but he just knows how to be on the screen.
He's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. We know this. You know.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I've never watched wrestling. I mean, that's not a secret, but he's magnetic on the screen. No question about it. He is entertaining to watch. And I'll draw the obvious comparison here, which is Jumanji. He was fantastic in Jumanji. He, of course, had a very good supporting cast in that as well. And this has a lot of the same vibes. It's got the same kind of humor, the same kind of location. Yeah. So he does risk this being Jumanji, the Jungle Cruise. But yeah, he proved that he can lead this kind of movie. And what we saw from the trailer, you know, what you were talking about, the first half is kind of that, oh, you're on the Jungle Cruise. It's the snarky guy. Look, it's the backside of water. They captured the ride very well. And then the second half of the movie, I expect, will be kind of the Pirates of the Caribbean, over-the-top crazy action. I mean, we got a very, very quick glimpse of that in the final seconds of the trailer. Yeah, it looks like stupid fun, which sounds like an insult, but it's not. It looks like stupid fun. It looks like the kind of thing where you go to the movies, and I do think I will go to the movies for this. You kind of turn your brain into half off mode, half on mode, and you just enjoy the ride. No pun intended. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's not trying to be a profound movie. It's not going to have some super amazing story. It's just going to be The Rock being The Rock, Emily Blunt trying to convince you she's not Mary Poppins, and just crazy stuff happening. And I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, I've been a WWE fan since as far back as I can ever remember. So I've been used to The Rock as The Rock since like I think he made his debut like 1996, 1997. So I saw him rise as in the WWE. I've seen him live at the wrestling dozens of times, seen him at WrestleMania and all that. So for me, there's that kind of thing of like, I know, you know, that thing about the personality and the charisma, you know, that's just him, that, you know, he just has that. And I think I've always been a massive fan, and I watch pretty much every movie he's in because I just know he's going to have that in it. And this movie just jumped out. Loads of action, loads of adventure. This is my perfect kind of movie. I love big summer blockbusters with things blowing up, lots of action. You know, I love those kind of movies. They don't seem to make enough of them anymore. You know, that whole like Jerry Bruckheimer. I loved all those movies. That to me is what I want to watch on the screen, is blowing stuff up. You know, that's why I love the Transformers franchise. I know I love things that are just stupid, big action, sit back and enjoy the scene. And this Jungle Cruise really did sell to me of that whole vibe. And again, what I said with Onward, I say original, but it's something different. You know, we've got new characters, new locations, something different. It feels familiar, but it's fresh. And that's what I want to see. I don't know where the story's going in this movie.
No, I think we can kind of guess at where the story's going. It's not going to have too many major twists and turns, I don't think. But, you know, the Jungle Cruise actually, when they first announced it, I was like, really? Jungle Cruise? You're doing a movie on the Jungle Cruise? But it actually makes sense when you stop and think about it, because the Jungle Cruise, the ride, doesn't really have a story. There's a very, very basic bare bones. You're on a tour through the jungle and you see the Aboriginals and all this stuff. But that actually makes it perfect for a movie, because, you know, you have this very, very light frame to build on, and you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. And that's what made the first Pirates movie so good, was they took the ride, the very, very loose story that the ride had. They include the bits that you would recognize, you know, the guy sitting on the bridge swinging his leg, and, you know, the guy sleeping with the pigs and all that stuff, the dog with the keychain. And then they attached a very simple but straightforward story with entertaining characters, entertaining action, and it worked. And then they tried to complicate it too much with 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it kind of went off the rails. But this looks like it follows that formula from the first one. Perfectly fine with that. Definitely looking forward to this. we'll wait to see what some other trailers as we get closer, because it's still
Yeah.
June 2020, something like that.
July 24th.
July 2020.
I mean,
So
that means it's going to be on Disney Plus probably early 2021. So it'll be a while before we see it there. But this will be a cinema release for me.
maybe they'll have a special release in December of the Jungle Cruise,
Yes.
and it'll just be the same movie, but they all have Santa hats on.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't like the ride at all. I hate. Me and my wife, we went on it the time before, waited in line for like an hour for it, and got on it, went around it. My wife literally said last night when we watched the trailer, she's like, "Well, that's 2 hours I was never getting back." And literally, the Jungle Cruise was enough. Oh, well, I'm not watching the movie because the ride. I said, give it a chance, but that ride, if it was a walk on, I'd do it. But anything less than it was just like, so I don't have that connection with that ride. I know in Disneyland it's a much bigger thing, but it was a ride that I didn't have that connection with. So I'm kind of coming in with it with fresh eyes and just like, yeah, it's fine. Give it a go. They did it very well with Pirates. They didn't work so well for Haunted Mansion. Tomorrowland certainly didn't work. So they've got a little bit of a hit and miss on this.
See, the Tomorrowland movie was fine. Preachy, definitely very preachy, but it was actually perfectly fine. I think they marketed it wrong, and they didn't really explain the movie very well in the trailers. Plus, it was a little bit of a complicated concept to begin with. So I don't think it was anything wrong with the movie itself so much as it just didn't catch with audiences. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a solid movie and preachy. As for the ride, the Jungle Cruise ride, I've only been on it a handful of times. It's not one of my go-to rides at the parks. I can take it or leave it. I'm saying if it's walk-on, sure, I'll walk on to it. If I've got to wait more than 10 or 15 minutes for it, I've got better things to do. It is, however, one of the few rides at the parks that is really dependent on who you get as the person in the boat.
Yeah.
Because if you get someone who's really good, then it's a great ride. It is a fantastic, highly entertaining ride when you've got someone who's really into it. And if you've got someone who maybe is doing their 70th ride of the day and mentally have checked out and they're just kind of going through the lines, it's mediocre at best. So it's one of those rides that is very variable on the experience per people. And to be fair, even if you get the best person, it still might not be the ride for you, obviously. But unlike other rides, Pirates of the Caribbean is always Pirates of the Caribbean. Haunted Mansion is always Haunted Mansion. Space Mountain, whatever. This is one of the very, very few rides at the parks, which, sometimes you get a good one and sometimes you don't.
Yeah. But no, that's there we are. So that was trailers and stuff. I think it's definitely, this is where I think Disney Plus is going to get this advantage of these constant big blockbusters dropping. Because once we get into that thing of, and if you look at like the upcoming 6 months for Disney Plus, once it launches, Captain America, Dumbo, a few weeks later, Endgame, probably a few weeks later, Aladdin. Then you're going to get, Toy Story 4. Then you're going to get Lion King. Then they're probably going to be looks like there might be a little bit of a drought then until we get like Maleficent and, Maleficent, Frozen 2, Star Wars, big movies are just going to keep dropping on the service and keep, and we're going to continue to see that going forward right through. And I think that's definitely going to be a big thing. But these big movies are a massive draw for Disney Plus. The only thing is that will impact it is home video sales, because they've always said about the fact that they are continuing on with that system of what they've been doing up till now of releasing it in cinema, then digital, then on Blu-ray, DVD, and then it will come to streaming. If there's an advantage to them to do it early, they will release them early on Disney Plus. But I was in the store the other day and I looked at Captain Marvel and I looked at Avengers Endgame and I was like, I think Aladdin came out this week. I'm like, I don't really need it. I've seen the movie. I've only got to wait a little bit longer and it'll be on Disney Plus. And it's that kind of, like I said, I rented a movie digitally because I wanted to see it because I didn't see it at the cinema. So I probably still will do that, but I didn't buy them because it was just like 60 quid just there. I don't need to spend.
I think that the movie market is going to adapt to this pretty effectively. It's basically about choice at this point. If it's something that you're going to watch repeatedly, go ahead and get the Blu-ray 4K, even just the DVD, whatever, because that's the easiest way to view it.
Yeah.
You just put the disc in, you watch it. So yes, nowadays some 4K players have to be online, which is stupid. Make sure you get a 4K player that you can play in offline mode. And then you can watch it whenever you want. You don't have to worry about latency, the quality of the stream, any of that stuff. But is it worth $30 or 60 quid or whatever you're going to pay for it if you're going to watch it once and then it's going to go on a shelf? No. But that's where Disney Plus comes in, because now I can watch the movie once. It's there. I'm done. I never have to watch it again, or I never want to watch it again. It was part of my subscription, so I didn't even spend anything extra on it.
Well, the thing is, for me, is I'm probably going to be using, I think my Xbox One X is probably going to become my main player because of it having 4K capabilities. And it's that thing of, like I said, for a £25, what's that, 30-odd pound 4K disc for Captain Marvel. No, I'm going to watch Captain Marvel on 4K on Disney Plus. It's just like, it was on the lines of, I like the movie, but how many times am I actually going to watch it?
Right. Exactly.
But I think you're going to see a lot. I think it really depends on, and if they see a drop off in that set and they realize they can make more money getting it onto, like, say, for example, like now they could be turning, instead of like Aladdin's coming out on, say, Toy Story 4, that's the one this week. They turn around and go, coming to Disney Plus in November. That would be a big push to get people to subscribe, because they're going, people maybe stop renting as much because you don't need to. It's like, it's like $3.49 to watch it in SD or $4.49 to watch it in HD. Well, the standard version, just along the lines of, it's £1. It's like, it's that thing of like, if I'm paying £5, I might as well pay 10 quid and buy it. And it's like, no, I don't want to buy it. $3.49 is perfectly fine. But had it been on Disney Plus in the next 2 months, I might have waited.
Well, that's the brilliance of marketing, because for every person who would go, no, I'm just going to spend the $3.50, and because it's the same, they will get another person who will go, I'm just going to spend the 10 and own it. Because it goes both ways. Yeah. And that is how marketing works. They want your end of the spectrum, where it's like, I don't care about the quality. I'm just going to pay whatever's cheapest. And then the other people who are like, well, it's 5 or 10, whatever, I'll go with 10.
I think it's that kind of thing of still being used to, like, be at a video, going to the video shop and picking stuff up, of like, rent it. I used to pay £3, £4 for a video from Blockbuster 20 years ago, and there's still that like mindset of going, yeah, no, that's the price of a rental. It's like, they've not changed the price. They've tried Sky trying to charge like £5.50 for a rental. Go, no, I'm not. I can buy it for that. It's like, you're like, no, but that's the big thing going forward. And I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if in 2 to 3 years we have a shift, depending on where their data is pointing, where people are going.
I'd be surprised if it's that long, honestly. I think it'll be much faster than that, especially with the streaming wars coming up. So
there's that kind of thing that the bigger movies will make more impact when they're on there earlier, but also if a movie isn't making any money at all, they'll want to get it on there and use it as a thing. Say like Maleficent 2 is a bomb. The quicker they get it on there, the quicker it kind of starts generating more. I mean, look what's been happening with Solo and stuff. But nevertheless, so that is this week's episode. We'll be back next week with some more Disney Plus news as we get closer to the launch. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe on YouTube. You can also subscribe on all the different audio platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and also Spotify. Feel free to leave us your 5-star reviews. Go check us out on our Facebook group. Just hit 35,000 members this past week. So lots of conversation going on over there. And then finally, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in another episode. Later.
1 month to go.
1 month.